Hey, you crazy cats! 42's live streams and videos are simply not available on vinyl. You will have to go to the YouTubes for that. So if you want content about British traditions and culture, cutting edge social commentary from an unapologetically patriotic perspective, along with a side order of madness you simply will not find anywhere else, then this is the place for you. And to all those early adapters in the chat, don't forget to hit the notification bell. That's how you get the good stuff, and make sure you never miss a tasty treat. So with that being said and done, squeeze yourself in. Let's get into it. You know you want to. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Please delete as applicable because the internet is worldwide and time zones are a thing. Can I get a audio check in the chat, please? And I'll do a couple of hellos. Emma G, the wonderful, delectable, adorable Emma G, first in. Lovely. John Davison, what about you, chum? Glad to have you here. Mr. Paka, hello. Hashtag, what about you, sir? XL Fakey, good evening, sir. Oh, Boyle, Boyle, what about you, sir? Pleased to have you here. Ragnar Orangebeer, my Ulster brother. Hashtag, alright, say hello to you. Paka, oh, Mr. Herbert, what about you, chum? Audio is fine. Excellent. Yes, Paka's in there as well. Audio fine. XL saying loud and clear. We've got a sheepdog in. What about you, chum? Bass, hello. October, what about you, chum? Hashtag Martin W. Good crowd on here tonight. Brilliant. Thank you very much. With that, we'll get into our usual housekeeping. Very big welcome to everybody like Boily Boyle who has came across from Sansom stream earlier this evening. And if you were not in that stream earlier, if you like my stuff, you will also like Sansom stuff. So there's a good option for you earlier on a Saturday evening. Emma G says it's always a good crowd when she's in. This is true. Resisting the Lies, what about you, chum? Glad to have you here. Yes, tomorrow evening, Ragnar Orangebeer is streaming. You can drop it in the chat who his guest is, what time he starts at. I'm going to guess it's 6:30. I can't remember. I've seen a thumbnail, but I can't remember exactly who it was he had on. Regs, if you want to drop that into the chat, I'll give it a shout out. Resisting the Lies, I don't believe has a Sunday stream this week. He's sort of cutting back on that because he's doing it mostly solo. So we'll see. But again, DJ, if you've anything you want to put in the chat, I'll share it out. And then we have next week, as always, John Davison on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, starting at 9 p.m. So there you go. That's pretty much our housekeeping and the channels that we regularly call out here. Again, very warm welcome to everybody. 19 people in. That is great. We're going to have a good wee stream. There was no stream last week because I have not been well. I was on the sicky bad, no well, some form of a flu bug, but we are well on the mend, and it's all going good. Rory Herbert, hold 1 second. I just need to get we link up here. Right, sorry, I lost Emma G, you know well, you know rightly I was not faking. I had the illness. Is this Wassiling Ceremony like something out of Hostel Part 2? I don't think I've seen a hostel that had any. The only hostel one I've seen was set in Central Europe. So, no, I don't. I'm not aware of that. Uh, Roy Herbert. As a teenager, I was an apple picker in Somerset, and I was paying Scrumpy cider. That sounds good. That's a good way to get paid. Oh, yeah, Amaji's getting panicky about that hobby word. Uh, I don't know. You might be surprised, Miss G. There's Rex is saying I'm faking as well. This is not good. You're all just picking on me now. I was definitely not faking it. I had the illness. Uh, yeah, but we're well on the mend, and we'll get this whole stream done. Now, what are we talking about? We're talking about the Wassiling Ceremony, and the first link we're going to pull up is from the National Trust, who are for once actually fucking promoting the British tradition, which is very rare and strange. And I am glad that they've actually got with the program on something. Uh, they're normally trying to promote how bad we all were and some crap like that. So here we go. Present. Share screen. Share screen. Chrome tab. Right, I'm just getting back to checking the chats. Hashtag Mrs. 2. Oh, sheepdog. You've said those words. Okay. Right, we're going to address man flu. And we've got two bits of the man flu we need to talk about. First off, back in the early 90s, the health service actually recognized that men die younger than. No, Mr. Blogs, it was not the coof, it was the flu. Two totally different things. Oh, yes, in Central Europe, but they had a strange monster costumes, music, dancing. It was loads of strong cider. I think they copied it from. Could be all done. Right. So in the early 90s, the health services actually figured out that men tended to die younger than women, and with the exception of breast cancer, uh, like men were the men were the men were had a lot more major ailments than women, and they started putting a promotion in place to try to get men to actually go visit the doctors whenever they were ill, get things checked out early. And by about 1988, 1980, or 1998, 1999, it was beginning to work. The life expectancy of men was starting to slowly climb. And then all of a sudden, this term, man flu, came out in an effort to shift the actually shame men that were going to the doctors whenever they felt ill. And that's what came out. Uh, that's when this term man flu came out. Uh, so we don't like that term. The other thing is that on evolutionary background. What happened was men who could continue working with minor ailments and stuff. Right, I haven't checked the ages lately, and I believe they have dropped over the last 2 years. But on average, women tend to live 6 years longer than men. Right, evolutionarily, what happened was men who could sort of continue working while they had minor ailments and whatnot were uh, prioritized because if a man, whenever we had small communities where everybody in the community had to work in order to keep everybody alive, and Jimmy decided he wasn't going to go help chase down the wild beasties so that everybody gets something to eat because he was feeling a bit unwell. Well, he might have survived, but he was not going to procreate. He would not have been chosen by anyone to procreate with, and those genes died out. So what we ended up with were uh, so the men who didn't take to their bed, basically at the slightest form of illness, they're the ones that genes got passed on. Now, because women needed to maintain healthy for 10 to 12 months due to a 9-month pregnancy and a couple of months after that, women's immune system worked to bash off and totally kill any bugs whatsoever. So men and women evolved differently, and that's why men and women can sometimes have a different reaction to the flu. So we don't really like that term man flu. Resistant Lies is in there. The term man flu pisses me off. Always has. Laugh of it is when you get sick, you just grin and bear it usually. It really has. Whereas women on average don't do that. They treat colds like a flu. It's the people who have successfully evolved and the genes that get passed on have got different function immunity systems. Is where most of that comes from. But now to get back to the Wassiling. Right. So here we go. Got a nice load of freaky costumes. Wassiling is an annual tradition to bless orchards to ensure a good harvest for the year to come. The celebrations involve music, song, dancing, and a recognition of what the orchards give us. It dates from the Anglo-Saxon era, traditionally taking place on the 12th night, but now wassels usually take place between late December and February. Take part in the dancing, clattering of poles, pans, traditional songs when you join with the annual wassail to bless the orchards. New events are being added all the time, so keep checking to see if there's one near you which you can join. So we've got a picture of marsh dancing, which as we have seen tends to go hand in glove with pretty much all of our different ceremonies. What happens at a wassail? Wassiling ceremonies are subject to lots of regional variations, but there are a few hallmarks to look out for. A wassiling ceremony usually starts with all the revelers gathering in a procession down to the orchards, possibly led by a wassail king or queen. Once gathered round the oldest tree, pieces of toast are placed on its branches to entice robins believed to be the guardians of the orchard. Cider is poured around the roots of the tree, while pots and pans are clattered to ward off evil spirits and to wake the trees from their winter slumber. The crowd will also serenade the trees with chants and traditional songs, often followed by marsh dancing. No wassail would be complete without tasting the wassail drink, which is usually a local ale or cider blended with honey and spices. So that's a quick overview of the ceremony itself. And The next thing I'm going to pull up is a little bit of video. There's Billy Blogs is getting way into all the technical stuff. Sheepdog was only messing. Don't worry, chum. Sometimes you just slip straight back into my strong advocate for the rights of being a voice bit and start doing that. But anyway, we're going to get a YouTube bit up so we're going to have visuals of a Wassiling ceremony. Now, whenever I was playing this, the audio seemed a bit low. So let me know, and if the audio is low, I will try to get it beefed up a little bit. Percent share screen. Just check this has come up in StreamYard. It has. Let me know what the audio is like, people.
So I've got some others. Have you done all this in there? Yeah, I think we
May the Earth Mother bless this cake, bring fertility, fruitfulness, health and strength, joy and goodwill to all those who share her gifts. In the names of the old ones, so mote it be.
That one has a really cool name.
May the old ones bless and guard these trees and bring us apples for the future.
cheer to bring our grateful thanks. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there's one other part of the Wassail that you all have to participate in. You have to have some of the cider.
So that's Wassail. Yet another British cultural tradition that I have never heard anything about. Doesn't get advertised in the way that the Notting Hill Carnival does. I just want to have a check through the comments here. Don Browning's right then. What about you? Glad to have you here. Sansom, great stream earlier on. Glad to have you here, chum. Oh, October. You talk about bonfire regulations. There's all sorts of problems going on with our bonfires here in Northern Ireland. On the 11th, the amount of them that are having contractors in come in to take them down and all sorts of rats that will be coming somewhere. But one thing I will say is, in a lot of our ceremonies that we've looked at over this past about 8 months, bonfires are included. Any excuse for shindig is correct. Yeah, they're blacked up faces and marsh dancing is a very old tradition. Goes back to before we ever had black people here. But yes, they are getting in trouble for it. Yes, Emoji, more fame, more bonfires. Roy, that video was from last year, I believe. So they're still getting away with it. Just checking down through these comments. If a black person wants to be a march dancer, I think they're a bit confused. See, the big row about May Day was a traditional British celebration, but the Labour Party got it brought in as a pink holiday because it's a communist day, communist world workers day, and there was a whole big commotion about that. Yep. Yep, originally from poachers, sheepdogs on it. That's what it originally was. They were disguising themselves for going poaching, but everything now is racist. Totally agree, John. That's something I've never actually looked into, but it is worth looking into. I think I will have a nosy about that and get back to you. I'll incorporate that in the May Day stream, I think, this year. Mars dancing's overrated. Reliant Robin dancing's where it's at. Right. 1 second, I need to cough here, people. Oh, that was not good. Katie has a signal of real distress. Oh, you're cracking me up. And with that, we're going to move on to Robbie Burns night. We're Burns night. And they'll still have Resisting the Lies in here if he wants to translate any of the Scottish stuff into understandable. No. I muted it. I didn't just throw the oyster onto the screen. The problem is you can. We just need to get better calling it out. Whenever it says, whenever they bring in legislation to promote equality between race, gender, and all of that stuff, able-bodied, disabled, white people are a race, and we can come out and say this that this legislation we're not being properly protected by it. DJ still here, like good. Yes. Whenever we get into this burn stuff, we might need some Highland advice. And a bit of because I'm going to play a poem or two by Mr. Burns, which all the ones I've seen need a bit of translating. Now, here we go. Burns Night. I'm going to actually zoom this in just a little. And this is from Scotland.com. There's a lot of people drinking whiskey. Burns Night. Known in medieval Celtic culture as a storyteller, verse maker, and composer, the word bard has become synonymous with the world's greatest poets. However, few are celebrated as Scotland's own national bard, Robert Burns, who we pay tribute to on the 25th of January each year. We're going to look at the ultimate guide to a Burns Night. The first Burns Supper was held in 1801, and in 200 plus years since, then new traditions have been added, but the sentiment remains the same. To pay tribute to our national poet, learn how to host the perfect Burns Supper. Food. We'll click on this and see what food we do at a Burns Supper. The centerpiece of any good Burns Supper menu is the iconic haggis, or as the bird himself described it, the greatest chieftain of the pudding race. You can buy this from your local butcher, deli, supermarket, or near Scottish store if you live overseas. Traditional accompaniments to haggis are nips and tatties, whereas they are more commonly known turnip and potatoes. These are normally served mash. Yeah, I don't think I'm eating that. The haggis is already cooked and just needs some careful reheating until it's piping hot, and you can do this in an oven or the pan. And for the less domesticated, you can even do it in a microwave. Never microwave anything. Do not nuke your food. Cook it in a fucking oven. A tasty alternative for non-meat eaters is vegetarian haggis. That sounds even worse than haggis. There, I said it. For a starter, you may consider homemade Scotch broth or cockaleaky soup. Finally, to round off your Burns Supper menu, dessert might be a traditional cootie dumpling or a classic cockrum. What to drink? Hold on, we'll check the chat. Oh, my phone started making noises because it's 11 o'clock. I'm a G. What's wrong with the microwave? What's right with it? Haggis sounds a lot worse than what it is. I'll take your word for it. It's an evil device, Billy. It makes stuff hot really quick, and then you have to, and it makes it that hot you have to wait till it's cool enough to actually eat. Right, hold on. News just in. Ragnar and Spear Jack are hosting Angry Bootneck tomorrow at 7 p.m. So there you go. Rags and Jack will Angry Bootneck tomorrow. This is true. Microwaves remove any goodness left in the food. Amanda Lee, good evening. Rory Herbert's wife always makes a creamy whiskey sauce to serve with haggis. Right, let's get back to this. Malt whiskey is usual choice at burnt suppers. Contrary to popular belief, adding malt water to your malt should improve rather than dilute the flavour, although some whiskey drinkers may not take kindly to you watering down their drams. It's traditional to pour dram over the haggis, but some may prefer not to, as it drowns out the taste of the meat and makes it soggy and cold. It's perhaps best to enjoy each independently of each other. If you don't like whiskey, then robust red wines make good accompaniment. White wines don't complement the dish quite so well, but it's whatever takes your fancy. Ales, lager, punch, Scottish fruit wines, or soft drinks, perhaps iron brew, being Scotland's other national drink, are all the alternatives. Burn supper music. The haggis is traditionally piped in, which could prove difficult if neither you or any of your guests can play the bagpipes. There's no shortage of CDs, downloads of Robert Burns songs, which you can use to dance later on in the evening celebrations. And here we've got people doing the crossed hands for a lang syne. Traditional recitals even call Starlight Grace in the dress of a haggis. Other recitals on the evening include a speech commemorating Burns to toast the great man known as the immortal memory. The address to the lassies, of course, reply from the lassies, which are normally created especially for the evening. Right, we're going to go back. I think that's all we're going to. Whiskey. Poetry. Oh, they all look very, very Scottish. Have to get this. Have to get people like very new Scottish front and center. It's fucking ridiculous. Scotland.com. You fucking retards. I just want to check the chat. Just checking the chat, people. Right, and we're going to have some Robert Burns poetry. We're going to start off with Address to Haggis. Right. Here we go. Present. Share screen. Share screen.
Fair fa your honest sonsy face, great chieftain o' the purn race, I've been the ma you tak your place, pench, tripe or thrame. Well, are ye worthy o' a grace as lang as my arm? Your groaning trenches there ye fill, your hurdies like a distant hill, your pin would help mend a mill in time o' need, and through your pores your dews distill like amber bead. His knife's sae rustic labour dicht, and cut you up with ready slicht, trenching your gushing entrails brecht like ony ditch. But then, oh, what a sight! Warm, reeking, and rich. Then horn for horn they stretch and strive, deal take the hindmost, on they drive, till the wheel-swelled kites belied are bent like drums. The old guidman's maist like to arrive. We think it hums. Well, is there that hour is French ragout, or olio that would staw a sou, or fricassee that would mak her spew with perfect scunner, looks doon with sneering scornfu view on sick a dinner? Poor devil, see him ower his trash, as feckless as a withered rash. His spindle shank a good whiplash, his neve a knit, and through bloody flood or field to dash, oh, how unfit. But mark the rustic haggis fed, the trembling earth resounds its tread. Clap his wally neve a blade, he'll mak it whistle, and legs and arms and heads he'll sned like taps o' thistles. Your powers wha mak mankind your care, and dish them out their bill of fare. Old Scotland wants none of your skinking ware that jups in luggies. But if you wish her grateful prayer, here a haggis.
Nah. That's why I was saying we might need a DJ in to do a bit of translation. Streaky Bacon, the Welsh madman, has said, is he speaking Slovakian? No, he's speaking Japanese. Which is yeah, it's a strange language. A strange language. There's English words, there's Celtic words in that, there's a whole load, and it's of its time. It's all Japanese, Axel. It's all Japanese. You couldn't tell if it's fucking Scotch or Japanese. We've got To a Mouse by Billy Connolly, or not by Billy Connolly, recited by Billy Connolly as our other bit of Burns. Here we go. I just want to check some comments before I hit play on this. He's speaking Scots, I think. There's the clues in, I think. It's a redundant language now, sadly. It's a mixture of Scots and English. DJ, there's English words in there too. There's phrases and colloquiums in there. But the big question is, did you understand it, DJ? Gammon saying Lannis. Scotch language is just the Scotch version of English, like Pigeon. DJ got about 70% of it. I got about 50%. Now, To a Mouse, there is a bit easier to understand.
To a Mouse, on turning her up in her nest with the plough, November 1785. We sleekit coor and timorous beastie, oh, what a panic's in thy breastie. They needn't start a war sae hasty with bicker and brattle. I would be laith to run and chase thee with murdering pattle. I'm truly sorry man's dominion has broken nature's social union and justifies that ill opinion which makes thee startle at me, thy poor earth-born companion and fellow mortal. I doubt na whiles but thou may thieve. What then? Poor beastie, thou mun live. A dame in icker in a thrave's a sma request. I'll get a blessing with a lave and never missed. Thy wee bit hussy too in ruin. It's silly was the winds are strewing, and naething new to big a new un of foggage green, and bleak December winds ensuing, baith snell and keen. Thou saw the fields laid bare and waste, and weary winter coming fast, and cosy here beneath the blast thou thought to dwell, till crash the cruel coulter passed out through thy cell. That wee bit heap o' leaves and stibble has cost thee money a weary nibble. Now thou's turned out for all thy trouble, but hoose are hauled to thole the winter's sleety dribble and cranach called. But Mousey, thou art no thy lane, and proven foresight may be vain. The best laid schemes o' mice and men gang after glee, and lees nought but grief and pain for promised joy. Still, thou art blessed compared with me. The present only toucheth thee, but och, I backward cast my ee on prospects drear, and forward, though I canna see, I guess and fear.
So that was the Ode to the Mouse. So what's happening there is part of what happens with language is as time goes by it evolves, and there are words that change. So, or there are words that are distinct at different areas that if you didn't come from, it's same as Scouse. There's Scouse people will say words that nobody else can sort of understand or don't quite get the grasp of. There's words that we use in Northern Ireland that are different, or even just turns of phrases where we would say things, and unless you were from here, you wouldn't quite understand what it is. But what I will say is that those poems did sound quite beautiful. I'm not sure pigeon's quite the right word for it. It's just colloquialisms. Yeah. The only thing stranger in East Belfast sober is East Belfast drunk. That's whenever it gets really funny. But again, that something I've tried to emphasize. We keep being told that the British don't have a culture. The British don't have traditions. The British, the only tradition the British have is fucking very bland food, and we had no culture or anything unique until the fucking invaders arrived. But would anybody like to explain to me how we have fucking great poets from different parts of the country that people can't understand just because they grew up with in a different area with different words? Oh, hold on. Hold on. Right, I'm going to address both of these. No, the British are not a race. There are people that that inhabit a certain geographical area. They are probably 8 races, if truth be told, inside this geographical area, and that's why we all have slight differences. Just for a laugh, would you say, "How now, Brian Cow"? Now we can do this a couple of ways. We can do it ordinary. "How now, Brian Cow." We can accentuate it and go, "How now, Brian Cow." But what you're more likely to hear is, "Fuck off or I'll put your Wendy's in." That's sort of more East Belfast. We are us, indeed. It's a nation of islands. No, we're about 8 different ethnic groups in the one area. There's at least 3 types of English, 2 types of Scottish. The Manx from the Isle of Man are totally different. There's two, maybe 3 in Wales. Ulster people are a solid block. So we have oh, you get that there as well. You get that here as well. We are a bunch of different ethnic groups that have evolved to work communally as British people. Yep. See, 3 types of Scots. It's but we have been living cheek by jowl for long enough that we can all get along. And as Billy Bloggs is saying, we have interrelated generationally, and which is why we can have a United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland that all pretty much most of the time gets on with each other, and we can form a common we can have a common army and a common defense. Oh, we're coming on to the cherries, Mr. Sansom. We are coming on to the cherry picking, because what we're going to talk about now is Charles the First, because his execution is December. That didn't quite go as expected. Right, here we go. There's a comment that I'm going to bring up in a moment. What the fuck's going on here? Right, that's what happened. I forgot to do that. Right. Sorry, we're about to have our next bit. Pagan got it right. We are like a family. Fuck with one of us, fuck with all of us. Or better still, get fucked by all of us. Right, here we go. are dappling to King Charles the First. This is coming from Encyclopedia Britannica. We'll zoom that in. I'm going to zoom that in just a little more. Charles I, King of Great Britain and Ireland, because back in those days Ireland had not yet reached partition. It was all one country. Born November 19, 1600 in Scotland, died January 30th, 1649, aged 48, London, England. He was a king of England, king of Scotland, king of Ireland. 1625 to 1649. Was Charles known for early life? Charles I, born November 19, 1600, Dunfermline Palace, Fife, Scotland, died January 30th, 1949, London, England. King of Great Britain and Ireland, 1625 to 49, whose authoritarian rule and quarrels with Parliament provoked civil war that led to his execution. Charles was the second surviving son of James the Sixth of Scotland and Anne of Denmark. He was a sickly child, and when his father became King of England in March in 1603, see James I, he was temporarily left behind in Scotland because of the risks of the journey. Devoted to his elder brother Henry and to his sister Elizabeth, he became lonely when Henry died in 1612 and his sister left England in 1613 to marry Frederick V, Elector of the Rhine Planet. All of his life, Charles had a Scotch accent and a slight stammer. Small in stature, he was less dignified than his portraits by the Flemish painter Sir Anthony van Dyck suggest. He was always shy and struck observers as being silent and reserved. His excellent temper, courteous manner, and lack of vices impressed all those who met him, but he lacked the common touch, travelled about little and never mixed with the ordinary people. A patron of the arts, notably painting and tapestry, he brought both Van Dyck and another famous Flemish painter, Peter Paul Rubens, to England. He was, like all the Stuarts, a lover of horses and hunting. He was sincerely religious, and the character of the court became less coarse as soon as he became king. From his father, he acquired a stubborn belief that kings were intended by God to rule, and his earliest surviving letters revealed the distrust of the unruly House of Commons, which he proved incapable of coming to terms with. Lacking flexibility or imagination, he was unable to understand that those political deceits that he always practiced and increasingly vain attempts to uphold his authority eventually impugned his honour and damaged his credit. I want to take a quick check into the chat. This is exactly true. The only time Ireland was united was under the British. We had DJ's a picked like me. Well, Cornithia actually. But there we go. Right. Oh, sorry about that, people. In 1623, before succeeding to the throne, Charles, accompanied by the Duke of Buckingham, King James I's favourite, made an incognito visit to Spain in order to conclude a marriage treaty with the daughter of King Philip III. When the mission failed, largely out of Buckingham's arrogance and the Spanish court's insistence that Charles become a Roman Catholic, he joined Buckingham in pressing his father for war against Spain. In the meantime, a marriage treaty was arranged on his behalf with Herneta Maria, sister of the French King Louis the XIII. Don't know. Sorry. Don't do Roman numerals. In March 1625, Charles became king and married Herneta Maria soon afterwards. When his first parliament met in June, trouble immediately arose because of the general distrust of Buckingham, who had retired his ascendancy over the new king. The Spanish War was proving a failure, and Charles offered Parliament no exemptions of its foreign policy or its costs. Moreover, the Puritans, who advocated extemporaneous prayer and preaching in the Church of England, predominated in the House of Commons, whereas the sympathies of the king, what came to be known as the High Church Party, which stressed the value of the prayer book and the maintenance of ritual. Thus, antagonisms soon arose between the new king and the Commons, and Parliament refused to vote him the right to levy tonnage and poundage customs duties, except on conditions that increased its powers. Thus, the right had to be granted to previous monarchs for life. The second Parliament of the reign, meeting in February 1626, proved even more critical of the king's government. Though some of the former leaders of the Commons were kept away because Charles had ingeniously appointed them sheriffs in their counties, the failure of a naval expedition against the Spanish port of Calates in the previous autumn was blamed on Buckingham, and the Commons tried to impeach him for treason. To prevent this, Charles dissolved Parliament in June, largely through the incompetence of Buckingham. The country now became involved in a war with France as well as with Spain, and in desperate need of funds, the king imposed a forced loan, which his judges declared illegal. He dismissed the Chief Justice and ordered the arrest of more than 70 knights and gentlemen who refused to contribute. His high-handed actions added a sense of grievance that was widely discussed in the next Parliament. By the time Charles's third Parliament, 1628, Buckingham's expedition to aid the French Protestants at the Rothschild, and I think that's when the beginning of where the Huguenots came from, had been decisively repelled, and the king's government was thoroughly discredited. The House of Commons at once passed resolutions condemning the arbitrary taxation and arbitrary imprisonment, and then set out its complaints in the Petition of Right, which sought recognition of four principles: no taxes without consent of Parliament, no imprisonment without cause, no quartering of soldiers and subjects, no martial law in peacetime. The king, despite his efforts to avoid approving the petition, was compelled to give his formal consent. By the time the Fourth Parliament met in January 1629, Buckingham had been assassinated. The House of Commons now objected both to what it called the revival of popish practices in the church and to the levy of tonnage and poundage by the king's officers without his consent. The king ordered the adjournment of Parliament on March the 2nd, 1629, but before that, the Speaker was held down on his chair and 3 resolutions were passed condemning the king's conduct. Charles realised such behaviour was revolutionary. No shit. For the next 11 years, he ruled his kingdom without calling a parliament. In order that he might no longer be dependent upon parliamentary grants, he now made peace with both France and Spain, for although the royal debt amounted to more than £100,000, the proceeds of the customs duties at the time of expanding trade and exaction of traditional crown dues combined to produce a revenue that was just adequate in time of peace. The king also tried to economise the expenditure of his household. To pay for the Royal Navy, so-called ship money was levied, first in 1634 on the ports and later on inland towns as well. The demands for ship money aroused absolutely and widespread resistance. By 1638, even though the majority of judges in the court of Exchequer found in a test case that the levy was illegal. These were, in fact, the happiest years of Charles's life. At first, he and Henrietta Maria had not been happy, and in July 1626, he predominantly ordered all her French entourage to quit Whitehall. After the death of Buckingham, however, he fell in love with his wife and came to value her counsel. Though the king regarded himself as responsible for his actions, not to his people or parliament, but to God alone, according to the doctrine of the divine right of kings, he recognized his duty to his subjects as an indulgent nursing father. He was often indulgent. He exhibited spasmodic bursts of energy, principally in ordering administrative reforms, although little impression was made upon the elaborate network of private interests in the armed services at the court. On the whole, the kingdom seems to have enjoyed some degree of prosperity until 1639, when Charles became involved with a war against the Scots. The early Stuarts, I'm going to check the chat. No, nothing here we really need to indulge in. Oh, that Roman numeral, I think, was the 13th. What the fuck? One of my ancestors, Livesley, signed a death warrant. He fled to Belgium, where he was later tracked down and hacked to death. Oh, that sounds painful. Right. The early Stuarts neglected Scotland. At the beginning of his reign, Charles alienated the Scottish nobility by an act of revocation, whereby lands claimed by the crown or the church were subject to foreclosure. His decision in 1637 to impose upon his northern kingdom a new liturgy based on the English Book of Common Prayer, although approved by the Scottish bishops, met with concerted resistance. While many Scots signed a national covenant to defend their Presbyterian religion, the kings decided to enforce his ecclesiastical policy of sword. He was outmaneuvered by well-organised Scottish converting army. At the time he reached York in March 1639, the first of the so-called Bishop Wars was already lost. A truce was signed about upon Tweed. I want to come back to this. So what was happening in Scotland was they were Presbyterians are Protestants through and through. You have got the Roman Catholics, which is the Church of Rome, the Pope, all those people. You then have the Protestant Catholics, which would be the Church of England, the Anglicans. You can differentiate them because they have a Bible and a Book of Common Prayer. Presbyterians, Methodists, all those people do not have a Book of Common Prayer, which is where you can differentiate Protestant Catholics with Protestants. So the king was trying to make them bring a Book of Common Prayer into their Presbyterian religion, and they didn't like it. On the advice of the two men who had replaced Buckingham as closest advisors to the king, William Lewis, Archbishop of Canterbury, and the Earl of Strafford, his able Lord Deputy in Ireland, Charles summons a parliament that met in April 1640, later known as the Short Parliament, in order to raise money for the war against Scotland. The House insisted first upon discussing the grievances against the government and showed itself opposed to a renewal of war. So on May 5th, the king dissolved Parliament again. The collection of ship money was continued, so was the war. A Scottish army crossed the border in August, and the king's troops panicked before a Cannondale at Newbourne. Charles, deeply perturbed at the second defeat, convened the Council of Peers, on whose advice he summoned another Parliament, the Long Parliament, which met in Westminster in 1640. The new House of Commons, proving to be just as uncooperative as the last, condemned Charles' recent actions and made preparations to impeach Stafford and other ministers for treason. The king adopted a conciliatory attitude and agreed to the Technical Act that ensured a meeting of Parliament once every 3 years, but expression of his resolve to save Stafford, to whom he promised protection. He was unsuccessful even in this, however. Stafford was beheaded on May the 12th, 1641. Charles was forced to agree a measure whereby the existing Parliament could not be dissolved without its own consent. He also accepted bills declaring ship money and other arbitrary financial measures illegal, and in the general condemning of his methods of government during the previous 11 years. But while making these concessions, he visited Scotland in August to try and enlist anti-Parliament support there. He agreed to the full establishment of Presbyterianism in his northern kingdom and allowed the Scottish estates to nominate royal officials. Meanwhile, Parliament reassemblement in London after a recess, and on November 22nd, 1641, the Commons passed by 159 to 148 votes the Grand Remonstrance to the king, setting out all that had gone wrong since his ascension. At this time, news of a rebellion in Ireland had reached Westminster. Leaders of the Commons, fearing that if any army were raised to repress the Irish rebellion, it might be used against them, planned to gain control of the army by forcing the king to agree a militia bill. When asked to surrender his command of the army, Charles explained, "By God, not for an hour." Now fearing an impeachment of his Catholic queen, he prepared to take desperate action. He ordered the arrest of one member of the House of Lords and 5 of the Commons for treason, and went with about 400 men to enforce the order himself. The accused members escaped, however, and hid in the city. After this rebuff, the king left London on January 10th, this time for the north of England. The Queen went to Holland in February to raise funds for her husband by pawning the crown jewels. Things is getting really bad whenever you have to pawn the crown jewels. A lull followed, during which both royalists and parliamentarians enlisted troops and collected arms. Although Charles had not completely given up hopes of peace, after a vain attempt to secure the arsenal at Hull, in April the king settled in York, where he ordered the courts of justice to assemble, and where royalist members of both houses gradually joined him. In June, the majority of the members remaining within London set the king the 19 propositions, which included demands that no minister should be appointed without parliamentary approval, that the army should be put under parliamentary control, and that Parliament should decide about the future of the church. Charles realised that these proposals were an ultimatum, yet he returned a careful answer in which he gave recognition to the idea that his was a mixed government and not an autocracy. But in July, both sides were urgently making ready for war. The king formally raised the royal standard at Nottingham on August 22nd, and sporadic fighting soon broke out all over the kingdom. In September 1642, the Earl of Essex, in command of the parliamentarian forces, left London for the Midlands, while Charles moved his headquarters to Shrewsbury to recruit and train an army on the Welsh marshes. During the dawn battle fought at Edgell near Warwick on October 23rd, the king addressed his troops in these words: "The king is both your cause, your quarrel, and your captain. The foe is in sight. The best encouragement I can give you is that, come life or death, your king will bear you company and ever keep this field his place and this day's service in gratitude of remembrance. Charles was a brave man, but no general, and he was deeply perturbed by the slaughter on the battlefield. In 1643, the royal cause proposed, particularly in Yorkshire and the southwest at Oxon, where Charles had moved his court and military headquarters. He dwelt pleasantly enough in Christchurch College. The Queen, having sold some of the jewels and bought a shipload of arms from Holland, landed in Yorkshire in February and joined her husband in Oxford in mid-July. Both by letters and by personal appeal, she roused him to action and warned him against indecision. Delays have always ruined you, she observed. The king seems to have ascended to a scheme for a three-pronged attack on London, from the west, from Oxford, and from Yorkshire, but neither of the Westerners nor the Yorkshiremen were anxious to leave their own districts. In the course of 1643, a peace party of the parliamentarian side made some approaches to Charles in Oxford, but these failed, and the parliamentarians concluded an alliance with the Scottish Covenanters. The entry of the Scottish army into England in January in 1644 thrust the king's armies upon the defensive plan for a converging movement in London was abandoned. Charles successfully held his inner lines at Oxford and throughout the west and southwest of England, while he dispatched his nephew, Prince Rupert, on cavalry raids elsewhere. But for about a year, the king's forces had the upper hand, yet eventually he put out a number of peace feelers. These came to nothing, but he was cheered by reports that his opponents were beginning to quarrel amongst themselves. The year 1645 proved to be one of decision. Charles may have had some foreboding of what was to come, for in the spring he sent his eldest son, Charles, into the west, whence he escaped to France and rejoined his mother, who had arrived there the previous year. On June 14, the highly disciplined and professional-led New Model Army, organised and commanded by Sir Thomas Fairfax, with Oliver Cromwell as second commanding, defeated the king and Prince Rupert in the Battle of Nebsby. This was the first in a long row of defeats, and the king's forces suffered through the summer and fall. Charles returned to Oxford on November the 5th, and in the spring of 1646, Oxford was surrounded. Charles left the city in disguise with two companions late in April and arrived at the camp of the Scottish Covenanters in Newark on May the 5th. But when the Covenanters came to terms with the victorious English Parliament in January 1647, they left for home, handing over Charles I to parliamentary commissioners. He was held in Northamptonshire while he lived in a placid, healthy existence and learning of the quarrels between the New Model Army and Parliament. Hoped to come to a treaty with one or the other and regain his power. In June, however, a junior officer with the force of some 500 men seized the king and carried him away to the army headquarters at Newmarket. After the army marched in London in August, the king was moved to Hampton Court, where he reunited with two of his children, Henry and Elizabeth. He escaped on November 11th, but his friends' plans to take him to Jersey and thence to France went astray, and instead Charles found himself in the Isle of Wight, where the governor was loyal to Parliament and kept him under surveillance at Castlebrook Castle. There, Charles conducted complicated negotiations with the army leaders, with the English Parliament, and with the Scots. He did not scruple to promise one thing to one side and the opposite to the other. He came to a secret understanding with the Scots on December 26, 1647, whereby the Scots offered to support the king's restoration to power in return for his acceptance of Presbyterianism in Scotland and its establishment in English for 3 years. Charles then twice refused terms offered by the English Parliament and was put under close guard, from which he vainly tried again to escape. In August 1648, the last of Charles' Scottish supporters were defeated in the Battle of Preston, and the Second Civil War ended. The army now began to demand that the king should be put on trial for treason. The grand author of our troubles and the cause of the bloodshed, he was removed to Hurst Castle in Hampshire and at the end of 1648, thence taken to Windsor Castle for Christmas. On January 20th, 1946, he was brought before a specially constituted High Court of Justice in Westminster Hall. I'm just going to pop back to the chat. Surveillance. Right, that's okay. I don't think there's anything I need to really get involved with, but do need a bit of liquid. Charge the First was charged with high treason and other high crimes against the realm of England. He at once refused to recognise the legality of the court because a king cannot be tried by any superior jurisdiction on earth. He therefore refused to plead, but maintained that he stood for the liberty of the people of England. The sentence of death was read on January 27th. His execution was ordered as a tyrannical, tyrant, traitor, murderer, and public enemy. The sentence was carried out in scaffold erected outside the Banqueting Hall of Whitehall on the morning of Tuesday, January 30th, 1649. The king went bravely to his death, still claiming he was a martyr for the people. A week later, he was buried at Windsor. So, I'm fine with people talking about Elvis in the chat. That sounds good to me. He's left the building, apparently. So, to sum that up, Charles I was the king, got very involved in telling Parliament what to do, so Parliament rounded him up, tried him, and hung him. Now, he is the last king that we've had that has tried to override Parliament. Every king since then has set up the Parliament and let Parliament do their thing. I think it's probably because they don't want to end up dangling throughout their house. And this is the beginning of why we had a queen for a very long time. We have a king now who don't get involved with the workings of Parliament, and they pretty much rubber stamp whatever gets put in front of them. And that's the reasons for that. Now, what have we been doing? We've been going 1 hour 18. Right. I think what I'm going to do now is stick this in the chat, and if anybody wants to come on and have a quick convo, they're very welcome to come in. So there's a link, and anybody wants to come in, jump in, and we'll have a quick chat about all the stuff we're talking about tonight, or anything you want. It's open house. Some comments that are probably ought to address. Where's Axel then? Good evening, sir. How's yourself?
Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm very well, 42. How are you?
Doing good. Well, as good as can.
Good, good.
I had the flu. I'm on the mend. I'm not fully there, but I'm good enough.
Yeah, you sound a lot clearer now. You sound like your usual self. And in fact, I think I'm coming down with a bit of a cold just now, but I'm all right. I'm all right.
Yeah. So, have you been up to anything interesting?
No, not really. Just my usual. I came on just there because I was following with great interest the story about Charles the First there. Yeah, I was just about to write in the comments, but then you threw in the StreamYard link. It was to say that since the end of the English Civil War, Parliament is now the ruler of the country of the land, where the Queen or the King is just a figurehead now as a constitutional monarch, where Charles was an absolute monarch and a bit of a tyrant.
Yep. Right.
So that was
I'm going to right. Give us a minute. I'm going to address Roy Hurt. I would love to hear your opinions of Oliver Cromwell and what he did to the Irish. He was fucking excellent, mate. What we had was a thing called the first massacre of the Protestants, where a bunch of Irish people turned up at the doors of Protestant people, took them out of their house, stripped them naked, and walked them from one end of the country to the other. And then whenever they came back, they got in contact with their kith and kin from Scotland, came back, and then the next time they rounded up Protestants out of their houses, walked them into the lakes of the River Erne, and the Loch Erne waters turned red with the blood of Protestants, not discriminated by man, woman, or child. And Oliver Cromwell kicked the Irish's fucking ass for that, and he brought law and order back to place. So, as far as I'm concerned, what Cromwell did in Ireland was a good job.
Yeah, I have heard that story before. The uprising where they massacred thousands of Protestants.
Yes, if you go to the website of Trinity College Dublin, you can get the depositions of the massacre of the Protestants, where you have all the actual accounts of the survivors. That's the part of the story about Cromwell in Ireland that you aren't told. He was there as a reactionary force to people that were killing people for being British.
Yeah, I've just taken a note of that, so I'll do that later.
Yep. It's called the Depositions, and you'll find it in Trinity College Dublin. They were all put online.
Okay. Cool.
So there you go. Paka, how's yourself?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm good. 40. What about you? As you would say.
Doing okay. Doing okay. Oh, hold on. Who else is in? DJ's arrived. Who else is in? DJ's arrived. Who else is in? DJ's arrived. Who else is in? Who's echoing?
Feedback loop.
Oh, not again.
Right. Who's got the echo? Right. Do I have an echo? No.
No.
My mic isn't working.
DJ has
my headphones on.
DJ has muted himself. Good evening, Steve. How's yourself?
Can we hear Steve?
Steve, say hello. See if we do a wee auto check there, mate. Technology's brilliant whenever it works.
Yeah, when it works, it's good. We went to the moon, you know.
Well, I severely doubt that. Apparently, the reason why we can't go back to the moon with the same knowledge that we had then is because NASA were short of tapes and they recorded over all the telemetry data on how they got past the Van Allen belts. That's NASA's actual explanation for that, why they can't go back and why they're having to send up rockets with people, well, not with people, with test dummies, with giga counters and all to find out how much radiation they would be subjected to. Because we don't know that from our previous trips to the moon, which I find a bit strange.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they're spoofing.
I believe that they flew around the Earth and up in space, but I'm skeptical about if they went to the moon.
Right, hold on. Steve, you're in here twice, and whenever I added you a second time, your echo came back. I suggest you check your. I don't know. Do you have your? Are you watching this totally on the StreamYard link? Do you still have your YouTube tab up?
Yeah, mute the YouTube tab. Just go to it, mute it, and then stay in StreamYard.
Yeah. Elvis's daughter she died like a week ago or so.
Yeah.
Right. Billy Boyle's dropped totally out. DJ, you what's crack with you?
How's it going? Just muted myself there because I wasn't sure where that fucking echoing was coming from. Oh.
Yeah, it was the other guy. So right here, he's back. Here we go. Brace yourself. Right here.
I'm
Brace
ready.
yourself. Right here. Brace yourself. You must have something up somewhere, chum. I don't know how we go. Say hello. Steve, say hello and see what happens. Steve, say hello and see what happens.
Hello, mate.
Steve, say hello and see what happens.
Hello.
Oh, fuck.
Oh. This isn't working. You've unmuted me.
Yeah.
I'm not getting any audio, and the headphones are all right. And it's always worked in the past. I'm going to have to duck out and try and figure this out. I don't know what's going wrong. Anyway, I'm still on the chat. Like,
no echo now.
Cool, people.
Here, it seems to be working now, mate.
Too late.
we might actually have a solution.
Yeah, there's always a solution.
Yes. Oh, Snoopy is saying he didn't believe the Earth was round until he went to the ocean. I've had a good look at the ocean, and it turns out that those boats aren't going over the curve; they're just getting further away and really small.
It's a pretty contentious debate, that. Like, I think the reality is none of us know what it is.
Is this where we want to go with this? I've had a really good time learning about Charles I. I think I probably picked up more in the last hour or so than I did at school.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, we'll get back to Charles first. This is why I want to do things like this in our history, because it is actually quite important and reflects how we live today. And like the rest of us, school didn't teach me shit. I learned more about my history from places like the Orange Order and bands and oral history than I ever learned at school.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same, but I don't think I was particularly in the mood for it at school, or it wasn't presented to me properly, or a combination of both. Not sure. But yeah, all these streams you've done on our traditions and everything, I find absolutely riveting. I really do, and I think it's something that as an entire nation we should all keep going. I mean, I realise that they don't celebrate Burns Night in England, but I think probably we should. I think what we should do is we should all pick them all up.
Yes. The other thing, why I started this, it's actually quite strange. I'm sitting in a house in East Belfast. watching my local news, right? Not the fucking national news, the local news. And I get updates about the Notting Hill Carnival.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm thinking, well, ain't no way I'm popping around the corner to that carnival. But if it's in the Northern Ireland local news, it's in the Lancashire local news. It's in all the local newses, right? But they're promoting this as a cultural event. But I wasn't hearing anything about any other. I've never seen a fucking article about the cheese rolling, and I knew the cheese rolling happened. Didn't know fuck all about it, but I knew it happened. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start doing a stream every week, and I'll see if I can pick up some local custom and tradition in Britain to talk about. And I was expecting to probably come up with about 20, maybe 30 max. And it turns out that every fucking week I have 2 or 3 things to talk about that's unique to this country. But we're not told. None of it's fucking publicized properly.
Yeah, I think the two I ever knew about was the cheese rolling, and that got 5 minutes at the end of the news, and a quick shot of a bunch of idiots,
yeah,
falling down a hill at 30 miles an hour, and the game of football between the two villages.
Yeah. Oh, and it turns out that apart from the game of football between the two villages, there was a thing. I'm not sure if I actually got it the last time I was on because I cut it short. But there's like a hood of a person that gets fucking clattered about like a football between two halves of a village over in England that happens at the start of January.
Sorry,
you know,
a head?
No, it's like some woman had a cape on, and the cape the hood came off her cape way back a couple of 100 years ago, and the villagers raced the presenter with the hood back of her cape because she was like a high up person in the village. And this has turned into a big event where they have like basically 2 parts of the village. Yes, cape. Oh, Billy Boy, by the way, it's saying your devices aren't connected. You want to try again? So there's a very similar thing to the football game that happens in this village in England at the start of January. The amount of things that I've just found, it's staggering me, and I don't know why they're not. We have a Lammas fair in a place called Ballycastle in Northern Ireland, and I thought that Ballycastle was the only place with a Lammas fair, but it turns out that those Lammas fairs happened right across the country. You know, we don't get told about any of this shit, and I think it's worthwhile just trying to publicize it. Billy Boyd, Steve, you need to come back out of the backstage, connect your devices, and then come back in because I can't bring you into the stream because it's saying your devices aren't connected. Good evening, Streaky Bacon.
In the town I live in now, we had a group of Morris dancers that not only wore blackface, but they wore black. They didn't wear white. And they've disappeared now, oddly enough. But that's all I know about them. I think I saw them twice.
Yeah. I've never seen Morris dancers in the flesh. Billy, your devices still aren't connected. Streaky Bacon, what about you, chum?
How you doing, boys? All right?
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, nothing, lads. Just fucking enjoying the program. Nice 142, mate. Hope you're feeling a bit more packer now.
Good.
Just enjoying the chat. I got nothing to say. Listen, I'm just messing about with the StreamYard and Cam and everything a sec. Yeah. if you want to carry on, mate, yeah, I'll come back to you in a minute.
Not a problem.
Thanks, mate.
Here, DJ, while you're in, how much of that those Burns poems did you get?
The first one I got maybe about 70%, but the one we said about that one the better, to be honest. I mean, it's not really a language you hear anymore. Here, I mean, it's Gaelic sort of on the rise again, but the Scots language is not really. That's on the decline. I couldn't tell you how many people speak it in Scotland, but I wouldn't put it past 100,000 at this point. It's just totally redundant. So the only words that I was able to pick up really is words that I've heard myself, because some of these phrases are still used today, you know, just in passing from some people. But
okay. There's Gaelic, there's Celtic, and there's Scots. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if Doric's another language. Like, it fucking sounds like it anyway. You know, like the Aberdeen area.
Yeah. Right. So you Gaelic, Celtic, Scots. There are three different things, and
well, I think Gaelic is Celtic, but there's like obviously Irish Gaelic, and then there's Scottish Gaelic, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Well, what the Irish people are now pushing as Irish or Gaelic is a bastardized language that they invented around 1890.
So a bit like Scots then.
Okay, right. Around about 1890, people in Ireland invented the GAA, the Gaelic Athletic Association, with a mission to promote an Irish identity. And at their first meeting, the first thing they did was invent the rules for Gaelic football, hurling, Cornogie, and I can't remember what the other fucking made-up game that they play is. So they invented that, and then at the second meeting, they started cobbling together a so-called Irish language, where they gathered together all the colloquialisms that they could find from round about 15 different dialects, and then filled the missing bits with Welsh, because Welsh is the only Gaelic language that survived intact. The Church of Rome granted Welsh people a Book of Common Prayer and a Bible in Welsh, which they didn't do for the rest of the British Isles, because there are all these different dialects. The Welsh said, we're not joining unless you give us our Bible and Book of Common Prayer. So they let their bishops rotate around Wales, taught them Welsh. Everybody else got Angle or English, and you got your sermon in Latin and your formalized bit of sermon that was in Latin. Then you got your actual bit where the priest talks you in English, and you had a choice of learn that or don't get it, or don't be involved with the church, which wasn't really an option. So that's where all the languages began to die, with the exception of Welsh. And then they have been, well, I know in Ireland, and I think in Scotland, they had the likes of the islands and stuff, where they were pretty much untouched, and that could be a language.
Yeah, it still is it, pretty much.
Yeah. They've got wee areas where they're still speaking what they always spoke.
Yeah. But mainland Scotland, though, the Highlands anyway, obviously, with it. You know, I mentioned it, Simpsons in the chat, Mr. Cherry, but the ban Gaelic after the Culloden. So that was kind of the end of it now, but it is on the rise again now. That's one thing I'll give the Scottish government a bit of credit for. It's not very often I can say that, but they put Areca funding into schools and that to sort of promote it again. And for the first time since they started that program, for about 3 or 4 years on the bounce now, the amount of Gaelic speakers is going up steadily. So you know, what good that really does in the grand scheme of things when in 20, 30 years' time the Scottish population will be full of Kenyans, like, but you know, it's the thought that counts, I suppose.
They're just doing it to stir. That's their only
Sorry?
reason.
Pardon?
They're just doing it to stir. They're doing
Yeah,
it to
it's
stir
like
the
it's
shit.
sort of.
I mean, I've got nothing against the Welsh speaking Welsh or the Scottish speaking Gaelic. I think it's cool. I grew up in Ilford where half the population didn't speak English, so I'm used to being around people that aren't talking a language I can understand, and I respect that. It's their language. Do what you want, but the Scottish National Party just do that sort of shit to stir.
Yeah, it's like their equivalent of red meat as well.
Yep.
Every so often they'll do something that makes it appear as if they're for the Scots. But yeah, you ask them to define what a Scot is, they can't tell you. But for a long time, what they were doing was they had all the street signs across. I don't know if it's the same way down the south of Scotland, but up here, all the like street signs and the police cars and that, they've got the English version of the street, and then underneath it the Gaelic version. Oh yeah, that's really changing the world. Like,
yeah, I can just enlighten you there. I was in Castle Douglas beyond Dumfries 3 years ago, and I saw the station at Dumfries was in Gaelic as well. So it's Scotland wide. It's not just around the Highlands.
They've been doing that because they're Scottish nationalists.
Not that the Lowland Scots spoke Gaelic. I don't know why, because they didn't speak Gaelic. It's not their language.
Whenever I spoke Gaelic, people turn away. I think it's the breath.
Yeah.
Listen. What I was going to say, it's sort of in reference to Joe Marsh's stream as well. See, in Wales, you got these Welsh nationalists and like Plaid Cymru, and because most of them they speak Welsh, they think they're above the non-speaking Welsh, and they're all lefty stinking rats. They're not real Welsh people. They're anti-English, and it's a real, they are anti-English, and it's shit to see. And we got Joe, and I think and the Welsh nationalists. We are the actual working class, the proper Welsh people. And you find most of the people that do speak Welsh in Wales, they're out in the country. But the ones that are not out in the country, they're usually the well-to-do middle class, which will be speaking Welsh. Yeah. And hence that's why sorry, I'm trying my best not to swear, but yeah, so that's why they're the commies. And I was watching with the Irish nationalist Philip Dwyer. He was streaming. Was it yesterday or today? Today he was streaming, and the people that were all against, they were all walking against the immigrants and everything, and you had a hardcore of these Irish. They were coming out. One of them Antifa flags, the usual scum. But there was quite a few hundred of these guys together, and they walking past. And he was saying, these are middle class people. These are not proper Irish working class people. These are scum. These are middle class people, and so how anybody cannot see that any kind of agenda against the working class come under climate change or whatever. This is it's just a global attack on all the people and all the cultures. And
it's exactly the same here.
I know a lot of Scottish. They want to say, "Oh, you're independent Scotland, etc."
Yeah, that's the thing about Scotland. I know that
they'll be going into Europe.
Both unions.
They'll be going into Europe.
Yeah, exactly.
There's none of them is true nationalism. These bastards are all linked together in it's a communist network against us, splitting Britain up. I'd hate, and I know with Ireland and with the Northern Ireland and the Irish and the religion and everything that's gone on there, right? But at the end of the day, we've got to stick together. What's going to happen in 20 years' time when the Irish are a minority in Ireland, Northern and Southern Ireland is a minority to the brown people, right? What's going to happen? Are you going to be fighting over Catholicism and Protestants as second and third class citizens?
Oh, we're not fighting. We're not fighting over religion, mate. We're fighting over a country. We're fighting over nationality.
Yeah, exactly. you have to stick together this time, and this is going all over Europe. This be going everywhere.
Yep.
And even in fucking in Spain, there'll be the Basques against the Spanish. Oh, that's another reason Scotland wouldn't get into the EU anyway, because the Spanish wouldn't allow it. Because there's no problems with Basque, but they're all splitting us up. In the culture's like this, and they're just trying to whitewash us all. We have to stick together, and religion has to take second place to race.
See 30 seconds after the Irish call off their desire to take over my country and decide that they're going to stop their fucking genocide, I'd consider joining with them, but until then, not a fucking chance.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, just before 42 said there about fighting for country, that's exactly what it would be in 20, 30 years. No more religious fighting. It'll be identity, and it will probably cause a unity of North and South.
No, but you're thinking that the fight over here is about religion. It's not. It's two separate peoples. They want to take my country away. Yes, that's why we've got big fuck off walls. You walk out of my house, 300 yards to my right. There's a large wall that separates the British people from the Irish people.
Yeah,
and what's separating you?
Well, to be fair, a lot of Northern Irish folk, well, Ulster, they're all Scottish descendants and whatnot, whereas Ireland's full of Irish people.
Yep. The Ulster Scots people are the people that was always here. The Irish people are the Celts that invaded between 500 and 250 BC, and we've been fighting ever since. Who was there previous before that? Who were the Britons there before that? You know, the Ulster Scots. No, the Ulster Scots were there before that. It was a whole settled land by the Cornithia.
Do you think, being as the stage is being set by those in power of identity politics, that at some point in the future it will come down to you and the Irish, being the minorities, will have to stand together?
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
Right, but here's the thing. It's the Irish people that are. It's all the Irish people that are for the identity politics. You'll find that divide. The Unionist people, the British people in Northern Ireland do not want the identity politics. Do not want the fucking people coming in.
No one wants identity politics. That doesn't work anywhere.
The people on the other side of that wall do.
I do. I want Scotland to recognise what a Scot is. That'd be a great start.
Yeah, the people on the other side of that wall that vote for Sinn Féin, that want Ireland to be unified. They want all those people coming in.
But we know Sinn Féin are poison. It's the same as Fianna God. They're all taken over by the globalists. Yeah.
Oh,
taken over by the globalists.
Sinn Féin were globalists whenever they started.
Yeah.
Sinn Féin were global.
They're all stinking lefties. Yeah. It's coming to the point now. This is small politics. What do you think the immigrants are taking over the country? Do you think they give a flying fuck about Protestantism and Catholicism? It will be nothing. When you were a minority in both countries, this will mean nothing.
The same thing's going to happen in Scotland as well, because obviously the big divide in Scotland's always been.
Strictly, here's a question. See, whenever it comes to it, and you've got to pull fucking cars or buses or whatever it is across the end of your street to stop people coming in. Do you want people your side of that barrier that are fighting for the other side?
I don't understand your meaning. Sorry, mate.
Right. Okay. If we have, if we join with the Irish people, right? See, whenever we try to pull barricades across to stop the other people coming in, they're going to be fighting us on our side of the barrier. You can't have that.
I don't think that'll happen, mate.
I do think it'll get to a point, because obviously what you're seeing now in Ireland, though, is that they're starting to get bombarded. They're starting to get bombarded with the demography issue. Eventually.
Strictly, I got a question for you. Have you ever lived anywhere in conflict?
No.
Right. Okay. Well, see, whenever you're speaking to somebody that has lived in an ethnical conflict all of their life, grew up with all of this stuff.
What conflict? Say it again, mate. A what conflict? An ethnical, did you say? Ethical?
Yeah. Ethnic.
What? As in different race? Or
yes,
as in different religion?
No, different race.
Or religion?
Race. They're different people. Yeah, they're different people. All good.
No, sorry, mate.
They're different people.
No, I disagree. This is just like
you can disagree all you're right. You can disagree all you want, but you are wrong. We live in a divided.
Listen. I'm Welsh, yeah. I'm Celtic, same as Irish, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah. So
he's not the same as your bit of Ireland.
Listen, if you can find an ethnicity difference between Northern Ireland and Celtics, and you're way beyond me in imperial.
Right. I'll tell you why. Because see, your Welsh Celts, they're the ones that came over from Central Europe. I'm not.
No. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yes.
If you're from it was Southern Europe, like Germany. That's the Celts.
Yes.
Yes. Where from the north, you'd be from Northern Europe.
My people were in this country building Newgrange in the 5th century, long before there was a Celt ever about the fucking place. We are two separate races. We are not the same.
But 42. The point I was trying to make.
Are you saying
when I said earlier about the English, the Irish, the Scottish, and the Welsh, we are a family. Families fight amongst themselves all the time. You've seen this, yeah? You don't step into someone else's family and take a side, because they will all turn on you.
Yeah, but the thing about
no, you've gone too far with the purity spiral in 42. Honestly, well, like I say,
we're going to have to be
millions, man. Millions of Browns are invading Ireland, and you can be talking about this kind of stuff. No way, mate.
No, you can't have traitors in your ranks.
No traitors.
You can have your fight afterwards, but at the rate it's going, the whole island is going to be lost.
Yeah.
I will say as well, though, like, I mean, I don't really know much about these things, and it's not my place to get involved in that, but, like, the entirety of Southern Ireland isn't full of commies. Like, obviously there is some, the same as Scotland does have SNP supporters who are commies and whatnot, but I think it would be a bit unfair to tarnish everybody under the same brush. Like,
I'll tell you something else. There's a difference between the Irish people in Northern Ireland and the Irish people in the Republic of Ireland.
God, yeah.
I know that.
Made your point on that one.
The majority of the people in Republic of Ireland do not want British people removed from the island.
Okay.
And by the way, the British people they want removed is me and mine. They don't want us here.
What's interesting though to see how if opinions still remain the same when your man I was alluding to there 20, 30 years from now when demography is completely fucked up.
There are genuine Irish nationalists that want the best for Ireland, that would be pretty happy to have a Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland and be on board with us. However, see, whenever they come up to Belfast, they got beat off the street. Not by the Unionists, not by the Protestants, but by the Sinn Féin type Irish nationalists.
Okay. I've never heard that before, but
we've got the same issue in Scotland, but obviously just to a lesser extreme, really.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if there was someone in the chat from Ayr to speak up, you know, for an opposition point of view, because, like you said, I would never know what it's like to live through the Troubles and everything, but I can definitely see that the Northern and the Southern Irish and religion between themselves is a fucking vast second place to what's happening now.
But it's not about religion. It's not about religion. It never has been.
You'll be in yourselves, man. You'll be, you know, there's something coming all across Europe now, and Europeans have to stick together through race, and it has to be done through this.
I can't make them stop wanting to kill me. That has to come from them.
I don't think everybody in Ireland wants to kill you, yeah?
Oh, no, but the Prime Minister does fucking stand up on top of the table and do a dance that, like the Mary Jaggy will do on the bones of the planters.
Listen, man, there's no good wanted for the people of Southern Ireland themselves. Do you think any of them fuckers leading Sinn Féin or any of them parties want anything good to happen to the Irish people? Of course they don't. So let alone the Northern Irish.
Oh, that was never Sinn Féin. That was Fine Gael and the other fucking party that they have down there.
Whoever is leading Ireland at the moment, right, has no good intentions for Ireland at all. You've got Cleverly and that twat Peter Sutherland, who's dead now, thankfully, has put Ireland in the status in. And none of them are speaking up to the actual people of Ireland, right? Ireland, I'm not talking Northern Ireland, Ireland. Ireland people are being done over terribly, right? And like Northern Ireland, you will get the same. You will get the same. So you best both stick together. And religion has to take a second place to your fucking skin to what's happening now. Otherwise,
I can't stick together with somebody that wants me dead.
All right, 42 then. All right, mate. That's your opinion. I respect.
No, it's not my opinion. It's a fact.
Right? Yeah.
In order for me to come to an agreement with the people on the other side in this country, they need to accept my being here. There was an orange hall burnt down the other day.
You don't think at any point in the future there will come a point of
they will not accept anything British on this island.
Yeah, but at current rate, there's not going to be anything British anywhere, nor Irish.
Yep.
That's my point, is that at some point, in order for any island to exist as either side wants it, you may have to come together, or there may be a point where you want to come together to say, no, this is our island. We'll fight over it. You lot fuck off.
Well, see, here's the thing. I'm fine with the constitutional positions as they are. I'm fine with us being in Northern Ireland, them being the Republic of Ireland, and everybody sort of getting on. I'm not wanting anybody removed off this island. The people on the other side do want me and mine removed.
Yeah.
Now, I can't come to an agreement with them under those circumstances. They've got to accept us. They have to accept that there are British people that live in this island, that we have culture, that we have a tradition, that we have. They need to stop burning down our orange halls. They need to stop attacking our parades. They need to leave us the fuck alone to do our wee bit. And then we could possibly come together. But see, until that changes, we can't.
I think the point though is that in time, maybe their grievances towards your country and your people will sort of become secondary as the issues that they face.
Yeah. What would they prefer?
Worse, because you're already seeing it now. It is starting to get bad in Ireland.
I think 42. I think you'll be coming closer together. Yeah, I think you will be coming closer together sooner than you think.
If they were given the choice between the status quo as it is now or the entirety of Ireland being a Muslim caliphate, what would they choose?
The dickheads would probably choose a Muslim caliphate.
And then
build a wall.
Right. Yes, the people on the other side of us think immigration is brilliant, that Islam's a religion of peace, that diversity is our strength, and that all we need is more diversity. They believe that anybody that comes on a dinghy, as soon as they breathe in that Irish or they're Irish, apart from the people
they think that in England.
Yeah, but
you watch BBC.
Yes, but the thing about it is they still call the British people in Northern Ireland planters.
Call them what?
Exactly the same. A lot of SNP supporters think that
I've never heard of that before.
They're Scottish immediately, but they refuse to accept English people.
A planter is somebody who came here in the plantation of Ulster. right? That's where they get it from. Now the problem is, the British people did not first arrive in the plantation of Ulster. The British people were here for thousands of years before that. They just lost ground and ground and ground to the Celts. All of Ireland, the big burial mound at Newgrange dates to something like 5000 BC. That was Cornethiae Picts that built that. The British people that were always here. Around about between 500 and 250 BC, the Celts started to invade in waves, with the largest and most successful being the O'Neills. At that stage, the name was Neil, which then became O'Neills. And the original inhabitants, the Ulster Scots and the Celts, have been fighting ever since, with wars that flare up, die down, flare up, die down, flare up, die down. And the most recent version of that was the Troubles. Now,
42. Okay, if you're basing this, right? So Wales, our last Welsh prince was 1250 something, right? And the English killed the line of Welsh, right? So do you think I should have anger against the English?
I don't know. Are the English still trying to kill you?
Are the Southern Irish still trying to kill you?
Yep. IRA still exists, mate. There was somebody shot dead last week, and they are still saying they do not want any British people on the island of Ireland.
Yeah.
They refuse to recognize. Now, this was all supposedly sorted out, but 1921, post First World War, where we had the separation. Northern Ireland stayed British, and the rest of Ireland became Republic. We divided the country. I don't like where the line's put in the map, but I have to live with it. They don't like where the line's put in the map. They just don't want that line in the map at all. And the deal that was done in 1920, where we've got Northern Ireland is British and the Republic of Ireland that is independent, should be honoured. And they should not still be saying we need all the British people out of Ireland.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that one. I mean, you know, the lines have been drawn, set down, agreed.
Yeah, over 100 years.
Listen, mate, I agree with you on that. And them filthy fucking lefty bastards are still trying to do that. Yeah, I agree with you. But I can't hold like a hatred of a fucking country based on Wales being taken over by the English. And Prince of Wales means nothing to us. Like, you know, it means nothing. But I don't hate the fucking English because of this. Like,
yes, but here's the thing. The people in England are not still trying to kill you and trying to remove you from your country.
Yeah.
You don't have a paramilitary. You don't have 3 paramilitary organizations. Put it this way: see, whenever you go to your local leisure centre, can you wear whatever football shirt you want? Because fucking sure you can't do that where I live. Do you need to check what clothes you're wearing before you go into town? Because if you go into the wrong area wearing the wrong clothes, you're going to get a fucking hide.
Well, I tell you what, if this is the fucking state of how things are in Ireland now, then Ireland, the country, is absolutely fucked, because you're going to need each other when the heat comes on with the EU, and you're going to flood it with immigrants, because you will fucking need each other. So this will be second place eventually to all the problems.
Yeah, probably. Well, I think the distinction that needs to be made here, though, is like Sinn Féin, commies, their supporters, and their alleged nationalists, commies, whether or not they realise it.
They could be commies.
Same principle applies in Scotland. You got the SNP, commies, and their supporters think they're nationalists. Some of them don't, but they're not. None of them are. And it's the same thing here. And we've also got the religious divide as well, which has always been here with the Catholic and Protestants. It's more prominent there in Edinburgh and Glasgow. But there'll come a point in Scotland where even unionists and alleged nationalists will have to put their differences aside when the vast majority of the country is fucking black. Considering the fact Glasgow already, as it stands, is almost 30% BAME, 25% of the school children in Glasgow alone are BAME. Like, Glasgow's going to be the first Scottish city in about 2 decades to go the way of Birmingham, etc.
Don't forget,
people in Scotland will have to go, Well, it's all very well and good to sing the praises of immigration and her wonderful diversities and whatnot until you have to fucking live with it. When it gets to a point where it's unavoidable and it is ruining your life if you live in one of these areas, unfortunately, your opinion might change. And we're starting to see that down in Ireland now. They're being fucking bombarded. They've got, I can't even remember, there's like over 200 or 300 different nationalities now, or no, there's about 200 different nationalities in Ireland, and there's over like 150 different languages spoken now. And the immigration levels they're seeing, they're getting bombarded with the EU immigration, they're getting bombarded with the illegals the same way we're getting it. So, maybe you could see it as reap what you sow, because they tried so desperately to leave the UK and they went straight to the arms of the EU. That's my future, so I'm not going to gloat too much for the time being. But, things might change in the future, because Ireland...
No, they definitely will change in the future. And you know what will really be the catalyst? Once both sides realise that they're a persecuted minority, that's when they will start uniting, even temporarily putting aside their differences to fight the common enemy.
That's what my opinion.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, I'm Europe for Europeans. I realise that Europeans have been fighting for thousands of years, but we're 7% of the global population and we're under attack. The rest of the world isn't told they're having too many babies.
No.
Are they?
The problem is that you're on the side of saying, let's join together and fight this. The people that disagree with you aren't willing to join with you.
They're going to have to at some point. The way this is going,
maybe not necessarily now, but that's what I'm saying. When things get completely unavoidable, like Ireland's, you're only starting to really see it emerging in the headlines and whatnot now. But like, I've known for a few years that Ireland was starting to get bad, because I've made videos talking about the fact the SNP want to emulate Ireland. And that sounds like a horror show to me. Why the fuck would you want to do that? But that's what they want to do. And I know damn well where that's going to lead. But the Irish people are now starting to see it's starting to become something they can't avoid. So, give it another 20. It might even happen in our lifetimes. It could happen back in 50, 60 years from now. But
I would say a lot less.
Apart from the hardline left types, your average person, the silent majority, if you will, they're the people that this will affect the most, the same way it's happening everywhere else across the UK. Your hardcore lefties will still always bootlick BAMEs, but it's the average man and woman on the street that this shit affects. So,
DJ, I'll tell you what I will say. There's more chance of Ulster people turning up somewhere down south to help genuine Irish nationalists than there is of there being cooperation within the country of Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Because we can agree with them and we can get on with them people. The people who are the other side of the wall from me, they just don't want me in this country.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. Like, I think that sort of opinion, that belief, apart from the hardcore hardliners, that will always be the same. But I do think, give it 20, 30 years, 40 even, when things continue as they are, that the average, the consensus across the country from normal people might change somewhat, as opposed to what it is at present. It's very easy for them to hold their grievances and grudges when, they're not being swamped, etc. But the issues are starting to become a little bit more noticeable now. So
only time will tell, DJ. Time will tell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who knows if, you think in theory the same thing will happen in Scotland, but I don't have a clue. I have no idea.
Well, I have theorised on one thing. Either the nationalists, they get their arse in gear and they realise that their future is in jeopardy, and they do the right thing and they fight together, or they die. It's as simple as that.
Sadly, in Scotland, there isn't even a nationalist movement anymore. As I say, I don't know anybody else who wants the same things I want for Scotland. Like, apart from John Davidson, like, I don't know anyone. I hold the beliefs of an old school Scottish nationalist the way that it used to be. Scotland for the Scottish, fuck both unions, and that includes the European Union. But now, doesn't
You probably
exist.
know this,
But I meet up often with John Davidson, and we do have round the table, off the record chats about things going on and things which could be done. And yeah, it's very inspiring in many ways. He's like a mentor to me, but he's opened my eyes to even more things going on. And he is like an old school nationalist.
Yeah. His opinions have sort of changed with the times. He went into a lot of that in that stream I did with him a couple of months ago. But I just like obviously the Scottish referendum in 2014 was the first time I ever really got involved in anything political, and I thought that was a sort of nationalist movement. But I quickly realised as we headed towards the EU referendum that if it ever was a nationalist movement, it sure as fuck ain't now. And now we're at a point where we have so-called Scottish nationalists walking about with trans flags, pronouns in their bios, Ukraine flags in their Twitter handles, talking about that anybody can come to Scotland and be Scottish. It's racist to assume that otherwise. And there's over 70 different genders.
Those people are ill. They're nothings. They're not. They're not.
The worst part about it is the opposition, which really pisses me off. The opposition here will constantly refer to the SNP and their supporters. It's the same thing as it is in Ireland with Sinn Féin. They'll always refer to them as nationalists. They ain't fucking nationalists. The SNP call themselves nationalists. The SNP themselves have disavowed that term so many times before. They openly state, proudly, may I add, that they're internationalist, which is just a fancy way of saying
They're globalist puppets, shills.
Oh, they are. They want a borderless Scotland in a progressive line.
Nothing these days. DJ, nationalist, that word no longer has any merit. It's just a meaningless word, like many of the buzzwords which have been hijacked and flung around like a wet tracksuit. So I just dismiss them all as a bunch of wankers. And sorry for swearing on your stream, 42, but they really annoy me with all their shittery and their fake words and buzzwords, because we see them for what they are. Globalist, cultural Marxist scumbags. That's what they are.
I just think it's done by. I think it's done by design, because you even remember the local elections. I thought that was very peculiar. The first thing that woman said, the Sinn Féin lassie, first thing she said after that council election was that this was I can't remember her first sentence, but she finished off by saying that the party would be moving forward with social justice at its core. Now, I only heard that term several days prior to that from Sturgeon for the 58th time that week, talking about the SNP was all about inclusion and social justice. I also heard the same bullshit coming from the Labour Party down in England. I also heard the same thing from Plaid Cymru as well. So isn't it strange that all these alleged nationalist parties, or maybe once upon a time they might very well have been, I know the SNP used to be, but isn't it very convenient that all of these alleged nationalist parties are all obsessed with social justice and inclusion, etc., etc.? It's almost as if these movements have been deliberately hijacked to thwart genuine nationalism. That's me being conspiratorial, I guess.
No, I see it too. But you know what was the last straw with me recently? When that bitch, Thin Lips, said that we're going to work together with Sinn Féin, that was the last straw. And I tried to warn people, but again, I got nowhere. So
here, Steve, give us some of your thoughts, man. Yep, go ahead, speak. Give us some of your thoughts.
You're on mute.
Right, you're on. There's something not right with your mic because we can't hear you, chum.
Placard.
Interpretive dance. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, why don't you try to use your phone if you've got a phone handy? Like, it might be easier if there's something wrong with your computer.
Right, try now. Say what you say. Yep. Check in StreamYard and see as you're.
That's a bizarre laugh.
Yeah. Yep. Check StreamYard, see if you're muted in StreamYard. And Streaky, is this some sort of wavefront nationalism you're on with here? With what looks to be the two cheeks of an arse. Oh fuck! This is great. Technology's brilliant until it's not. Right.
But it's still an enjoyable story too, even for all the ups and downs of the technology.
It has. It's been a really good stream.
I know. It's very informative. I really do. I really enjoy them.
And you've made everybody's night as well, because they were all missing me, clearly. It's been a while since I've been on an anybody. So,
yep.
You know, should have brightened all your days.
What? Yes, DJ, what's the crack with you with the Sunday night streams? Are they going to be coming back, or are you going to be doing them at a less regular interval?
I think, I don't know. I mean, I could quite easily do them myself if need be. And I mean, Sensum hasn't ruled out doing any more with me. It's just after the new year, I thought maybe Scott Sarwin would have come back by now, but he's no. And I don't know. It's like I used to when I first started streaming by myself when I wasn't all McClive and that. I just did impromptu streams. You know, nobody knew that they were scheduled. Nobody knew what time. I just randomly did one when something came up, and I think that's what I might go back to doing. Something of importance in Scotland comes up, I'll probably do a stream in it. But sometimes I felt as if I was forced, like, because I wanted to keep it somewhat Scottish centric, because obviously I was filling in for Scots Armour and we had a Scottish audience for the most part. So if there's not really anything substantial happening in the country, you know, sometimes I felt a bit forced. Like I was just doing a stream for the sake of doing it. And well, me having work and that on the Monday mornings, so I was off late. I don't know.
Well,
see.
Oh, is next Saturday the last Saturday of the month?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, we should be back. Get you and Sanson back on again next week.
That's fun.
If you're stuck for
see Boily Boyle, right? He's like raving away in the background because he's got mic problems and everything. Bless him, man. He's raving away and he's talking and he's enjoying it, man. It's been a wicked little stream, 42.
It has. I'll definitely get Boily Boyle if you're still in the chat. We'll get you on again another night whenever you've got the mic and all working. I would love to have got some of your input, but the technology just didn't work for us tonight. Streaky Pagan is up dancing with wolves.
He's going to unblur that. It's going to be some guy with tits.
I thought what fuck's he doing? There's like charades in the background, you know. His hands were going and snapping away, and I was like, "Yeah, man, it's a Christmas game, isn't it?" So yeah, fair play to the guy. He's still at it, isn't he? He's Ghostbusters. That's what he's doing now. Ghostbusters. Look.
Right, lads. It's coming up to 1 o'clock. It's 10 to 1. I'm going to start wrapping this up. So, any last thoughts?
No. I'm all good, like. Surprised you're ending it this early, though. But,
yeah, I'm just... Well, I'm going to... It's coming up to 2 hours, 20 minutes, and I've still got a bit of this cold and whatnot, and the idea of bits and pieces need to get sorted out tomorrow. I need to get my car cleaned and stuff.
How long have you had that cold then, mate? How long you had this cold?
About coming up in 3 weeks.
That's a long time to have a cold, man. Did you get a vaccine and all that? Did you, mate?
Oh fuck no.
Oh, good man.
I had
just normal flu.
Yeah, it's a normal flu. It was bad for about 10 days. It started off, it wasn't too bad, and then I had 10 days where it was quite bad, and I'm at the tail end of it where it's, you know, like a cold. It's a bit of an irritation.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. You got it in your voice, though.
Yeah, it's still in my voice, and I'm down to about 5 sneezes a day, you know. Yeah, sounds like...
Drink your way through it, bruv. Drink your way through it.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm doing. And the other thing is, I don't drink whenever I'm streaming, and that's the other thing. Yeah, I'm sort of...
I'm opposite. I only come on stream when I'm drunk. I'm the fucking opposite, mate.
Yeah, quite a long time ago, I was involved with the men's rights stream, and we were doing that every Saturday.
I've seen some
We
of your
were,
stuff, mate. You've been doing lots of good work with that, haven't you? I looked at some of your old stuff and all that. I mean,
yeah,
fair play to you for that 42, mate.
yeah. Well, I was part of like a three to five header stream that went out every Saturday night, and I done that a couple of times having a drink, and after the second time, and I watched a bit of it back, I was like, yeah, no, that this is not for me, because you end up you're fucking slurring and all sorts of shit, and it's just not good.
Yeah, mate, I know the feeling. Yeah, you've done.
Oh,
I looked at some of the stuff you've done because you've been streaming for years, like, and so I was looking back and I could see you speaking out for like about men's rights, and years ago that would have been something I would have applied to me. I had like sticky situation with my kids and stuff like that. So not a good one for doing that, mate. Fair play.
yeah, we've had a bit of success with that. We've got a couple of law changes, a couple of policy changes in Northern Ireland, but it's
good.
like it's like everything else. They keep on fucking bringing in new policies, and then you've got to go and fight the same battle again. It's a fucking nightmare. But what can you do? Once you see how wrong the system is, your only choice is to oppose it.
Yeah, good for you, though, mate. You know, good for you, because I was impressed with that.
Right, we're getting requests for the play. I was going to go with cider drinker, but I might actually do that.
The Wurzels?
Yeah, the Wurzels, because right, hold on, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to look this up.
I'm just looking at the chat now, and England Free English. I think is that English Bulldog. He's talking about diphtheria being brought back here. That's another gift from the immigrants we've got, you know.
They're bringing back all sorts, Packer.
Yeah, they're coming back with gifts for us all, boys. Diphtheria, polio, tuberculosis, all these gifts these immigrants are bringing to us, and just keep ringing them in. Yeah, nice one, Bulldog. Oh, what a man! Yeah, it's a different name he's got now.
I saw some left guard in America going about diseases popping up, and he was blaming it on anti-vaxxers, not wanting to look at the southern border being wide open.
Oh yeah,
like that. No, it's anti-vaxxers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
50,000 a week flying in for the southern border. 50,000 a week.
He was trying to say that anti-vaxxers was stopping normal people getting their kids vaccinated against measles, mumps, and rubella and that kind of thing. That was his point. He was trying to argue that point. Nothing to do with the southern border being wide open, millions of people pissing through.
Well,
not vaccinated at all.
Talking about that, my youngest didn't get all of that measles, mumps, rubella stuff because they had changed the system between having the first one and the second one, and he had his first vaccination, and it was like supposed to be a set of 3 injections over the course of like a year, and didn't like the reaction he had to the first one. He never went back for the rest. We were like, yeah, no, that's enough for him.
Righto. Well, that's fair enough.
And that's coming back, or that's going back, must be 26, 27 years, or about 25 years anyway, I think. So, but that was that. But he would have got my first daughter. She got all her vaccinations. It was a different system. The second one, he got the first one of the vaccinations, and we didn't like the reaction he took, and we're like, yeah, no, that's not for him.
That's fair enough, and it don't matter because that's how they work. Because proper vaccinations that work to the original definition of what a vaccination is herd immunity. Therefore, if 5, 10, 15% of the population isn't actually vaccinated, it doesn't matter because the rest of the population is. That's not an issue. That's how it should work. So that those that have bad reactions or whatever don't need to get vaccinated because everybody else is. But when you have a vaccination that doesn't stop you getting whatever it is and doesn't stop you passing it on, then that falls down. But to argue the point that people that are against the current vaccination would automatically be against any vaccination is absolute bollocks.
Yeah, spot on, Blacker, spot on. And plus, these are vaccinations, but they're not traditional vaccinations. Whereas you used to have a little bit of something bad inside you, and then your body would grow and react against it. This is mRNA. This is a totally different.
And they're trying to argue the point that if you're against the current one,
you're an anti-vaxxer. They just lump you in.
Here's a cracker.
Normal shithead lefty behavior. They lump you all in like chuck you on anti-vaxxer, which is a load of bollocks, mate.
Up until about 5 years ago, 2015, 2016, by 2017, I think it actually came into effect. All 14-year-old girls, I think it's 14, got an HPV vaccine, right, which prevents against cervical cancer. Now, that same HPV vaccine would protect boys against throat cancers and testicular cancer, but they only gave it to the girls because fuck boys and fuck men's health. And I was part of the campaign that got that changed, that we now vaccinate all our 14 or 15-year-olds with that vaccine. Now, before I got involved with that campaign, I had a good long look at the vaccine, the efficacy for it, how it was produced, what its success rates are, and it's a good job. And we got that brought in. Not me. So, like, there was a load of people involved in this argument. And then they're saying that I'm going to be against people getting vaccinated because I don't like this current one that isn't actually a fucking vaccine. Fuck off.
Yeah, like vaccines are made a certain way. They're done to a system. They're done the same. This one ain't. This is different. This is experimental.
Yeah, well,
that's all it is. It's experimental. They don't know what the long-term effects are going to be.
Yeah, it's normally 10 years for a vaccine to go through. This one, if you listen to them, is 5 months, right?
Yeah,
that's fucking terrible. The public, they were the trial.
Between 10 and 15 years for a vaccine to get certified. The average being around about 12. It takes it takes 5 years. It takes 5 years to get to human testing, and then a minimum of 5 years to get through the proper human testing.
So human testing. 8 more years before they say the COVID vaccine is a vaccine, which of course we clearly know it isn't.
Here's the thing: they had to change the definition of a vaccine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they changed the term pandemic as well. That's also got changed in the dictionary. Pandemic and vaccine, them words have got changed. Just to go along with their agenda, you know.
Well, I'm actually happy to say I'm very proud that I refused to take any vaccines for the COVID. And now it's no longer a requirement in many places now to travel. So I believe that was my 2 fingers up to the system.
Good man.
Yeah,
I done the same, you know, but a lot of my family didn't. And I was telling them about thalidomide, even my kids, you know, and they knew about thalidomide and what I'd done with the birth control pill in the 60s. And they fucking still went ahead and had this shit poke in them just to travel abroad. I said, wait, you know, I said, listen, wait. I said, wait a year, just be patient. But thanks to coercion by the media and the government and all this shittiness against us, my kids stuck that shit in their arm, like, you know. So I don't expect good things to happen in the future. Like.
Yeah, fucking. Get your vaccine, get a free McDonald's, get a free pizza, get a free concert ticket. I was waiting for the Ferrari.
The only thing I did do when I went abroad, the only thing I did do when I went abroad was to take negative tests, because that was the only requirement. And I thought, well, I'd rather do that than get the bloody thing in my arm.
Yep. Right, lads, I'm going to get some music on and wrap this thing up at that. Thank you all for coming on. It's been an absolutely brilliant conversation. Thank you all. We'll
wrap
get
it
some
up in Union Jack Christmas paper.
Yep. I need to get some cider into me.
That was my joke.
Right. Here we go.
Righty.
Share screen.
Cheers, all.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Y'all.
If this could start, that would be good.
Oh, we'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. We'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. We'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. And we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. Oh, it'd be all right if we make it around the horn. Oh, it'd be all right if we make it around the horn. Oh, it'd be all right if we make it around the horn, and we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. Well, a night on the town wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, a night on the town wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, a night on the town wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old chariot. We'll roll the old. We'll roll the old. And we'll all hang on behind. Well, another festival wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, another festival wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, another festival wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old. We'll roll the old. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old. We'll roll the old. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind.
Right, everybody. Good night. God bless. I've been 42. The guests have been the guests. I've been 42. You lot in the chat have been fucking brilliant. Thank you. Good night. God bless. Goodbye.